This video is going to look at a topic where often gets raised when we give demos of Adaptable, our powerful AG grid extension, and that is whether we support weighted averages. And it's something that's frequently requested by financial users because it's fairly common in that world. As the name implies, a weighted average is one when you calculate the average on a set of numbers, you don't simply work out the total divided by the count, but you add an extra factor, a weighting factor, which gives relative importance to another weighting thing, another column. As Investopedia puts it, you take into account the varying degrees of importance of the numbers in a data set multiplied by a predetermined weight. Now, Adaptable does support weighted averages, and in fact we do it in three ways. And we'll look at them in this demo here because hopefully that will show you what we offer. So let's first look at this data set, and you can see it's a dummy data set showing some subjects, some exam results, some attendance points, pupils and classes. So if I group this data first by class and then by pupil, and I open it up so we can see, say, Andy from year 7 and Mark from year 8. So typically if I just wanted to work out the average of Andy's exam results, I will add them all together, so that's 100, divide it by 5, and then you would get 20, and that would be Andy's average. But here we want to take into account the attendance points as well. We want to say that their real result is not just what they did in the exam, but their attendance during the year. That's essentially our weighting factor. So how do we do that in Adaptable? Well, as I say, you do it in three ways, and the first is by leveraging AG Grid's aggregations. AG Grid provides very powerful aggregations. We can see them here, and you can see that it's very easy to work out an aggregated amount on any set of data when you're grouping. But Adaptable takes that one stage further, and we add an extra aggregation. So if we go into our layout and we say we want to do an aggregation on exam results, we can see, as well as the ones in the list, we've also got a weighted average. And when we select that, a second column appears, which allows us to choose what the weighting column will be. We're going to say attendance, and now when I see the average, I don't see 20, but in fact I see the weighted average, which is taking the attendance into account. Let's just create a format column to make that a bit nicer. So we will say we will do 2 fraction digits, and we will include grouped rows. There we are. So that's the first way, where you use an AG grid aggregation and you pass in another column. The second way that you can do it is through cell summaries. So let's open this up here and let's go to our summary, and we can see, so if I multiply all these, I can see I've got the weighted average of 21. If I do a normal average, it's 20. And obviously if I do a sum, it's 100. But if I ask to do the weighted average, then I get 21.33, which obviously, of course, is the same number as we see here. And essentially what that cell summary does is it works out, whenever you select a set of cells, it uses the adjacent column to provide the weighting factor. So that's the second way you can do it, where you just essentially select any group of cells. So if I select all these, I'll see 1577, which obviously is this number here. There is also a third way in which you can do it in Adaptable, and that's to use expressions, and you do that via the calculated column. So let's create a new calculated column, and let's call this weighted average. Okay, and let's build an expression. So here we are going to do a scalar expression, because essentially the result in each row is going to take a number of rows into account. So we go into here, and obviously the first thing we need to do is an average. So we want the average, and our average is that of the exam result. And obviously if we do that, in our case, we will get 20. But we can also add a weighting factor. So we add a weighting factor, and that weighting factor is going to be the column we give it, which of course is attendance. And now if we did this, we would then see that for the whole grid. So in fact, let's So he knows it's a number, we don't need to worry about any of that. So if I go into my layout, and if I edit my layout, and I go to columns, and I make weighted average visible, we can see that we've got this number 22065, which in fact we can see here is for the whole grid. But what would be actually quite nice is, for instance, to be able to do the same, to see what we to be able to get the 21.33 and the 1577. So essentially, to make each column not show me the weight for the whole grid, but show me the weight for that row's pupil and class. So let's go back into our calculated column and let's edit it. So if we now go back into our expression, we can add a group by clause, and that can take as many columns as you want. So let's group that first by class and then by pupil. So now we're seeing now we're going to have the average of the exam result, weighting it by attendance, but grouping it by class and pupil. So let's finish, and again let's create a format column to make that 2 fraction digits. So now we can see here that we have the 21.33, which matches this 21.33 from the cell summary, and matches the 21.33 from the layouts aggregation, and again these 1577s match this. Now, one of the nice things about doing your weighted average as an expression is, even though obviously we grouped it by class and pupil, which is how the grid looks, if I take the groupings away, I obviously still have my 2133 and my 1577, because the grouping in the aggregation is not based on whatever row grouping you've got on the screen, but obviously is based on the grouping in the expression. So there we are. We've looked at weighted averages, and we've shown you can do it in 3 different ways in AdapTable. Hopefully that's interesting. If you'd like to learn more about AdapTable, please get in touch. We'll be delighted to give you a personalized one-to-one demo, or indeed you can request a free, no obligation trial license so you can try out AdapTable by yourself. As always, thank you for watching.